Perfect. All right. So, as I said, our first topic for today is licenses and certifications. We obviously always want to know why. Why should you spend the time doing this? I know that for me, I always need a reason to do things as well. So, basically, for this section of your LinkedIn, you are attracting the interest of a potential hiring manager or recruiter, because when a recruiter searches on LinkedIn for a candidate to fill a certain position with certain specific skills, they often use keywords for that search. And it could be that your credential or certificate is in that set of keywords. So it will help you basically appear in the search of a recruiter. And we always want to use any of those tools at our disposal to make ourselves more visible. Another couple reasons why is that it enhances your credibility, right? Of course, it's always better if you have proof of something. Instead of saying I'm good at English, I have a high English level. If you have a certificate, if you have taken an exam, any sort of test that shows your level, then you do have a better credibility. It also shows your commitment to professional development if you have stayed up to date with your skills. It also indicates your proficiency, of course, in a specific skill. So, some types of licenses and certifications that you may have already acquired. Of course, all of the platforms that Upwardly Global gives you access to are included in that, including LinkedIn Learning if you have a LinkedIn Premium, including Coursera, Microsoft. This example here is from Udemy Business. So any of those are fair game to add to your profile. One thing to consider if you're asking yourself, okay, I have done, let's say, 6 different online courses in the last year, which ones should I add? I would ask yourself which ones are the most relevant to your career goal. LinkedIn is different than your CV in the sense that it's okay to include a lot more. You have the room, you have the capacity, but let's say you have a certificate in something that is just something that really is not related to your career, then maybe don't put it. But in general, you can be very generous in the amount of certificates that you add. Because even if something isn't directly related, maybe it shows a soft skill, maybe it shows your determination to keep learning. And I think that is always a really credible thing to share with future employers. So, how do we do this? I will switch over to my LinkedIn in a moment, but just so you can see, it's very easy. You go to your profile first. This is always the place to start. Scroll down to the section called Licenses and Certifications, and you're going to press the plus on the top right. Once you're there, you will need some pieces of information. So you will need the name of the license or certification, of course. You will need the issuing organization, basically, could be Coursera, could be Udemy. In this example here, it's Microsoft. And you will also need the start and the end date for that certificate. So before I continue, well, maybe I'll just show you all of it and then we'll hop over. One thing to note, because I have had this situation myself, I didn't have an expiration date. A lot of certifications do not. In that case, that's okay. I think you can continue without one. We can try it together. Um, and a credential ID, the same. Sometimes you don't have that, you just don't add it, and that's okay. You don't need to. Another thing that you will be prompted to add with your certification or course is a skill related to that. So let's say you did a online course in project management. The skill would also be project management, but it can be other skills as well. I believe you can choose more than one, but you should choose minimum one skill related to that certification. And that will then become part of your skills section. Okay, so let's do this in real time. You're welcome, as usual, to also go to your own LinkedIn and to follow along on your own profile. All right. Okay, so as I said, I'm going down to my certification section. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Here it is. And the plus allows me to add new things. I don't know if that's popping up on my screen. Yes, it is. Okay. So as you can see, right, it's going to prompt me. The asterisk ones are required, right? We need the name, we need the organization. Issue date is not necessary, but I always say if you have the information, the more information you have, the better. If you have it, put it down. If you don't worry about it. So month that you got it, let's say you just got it in September. I'm just going to make an example here. So Udemy and then project management. It's going to pop up a menu for you, and you're going to want to choose whatever one is closest to that. And then adding the skill. So in this case, it's project management. Project management. And you can add more than one. I'm just going to add one for an example. Here is the media section at the bottom, allows you to put images, documents, and I would definitely recommend if you have downloaded the actual certificate. For example, I think on Coursera, you have the download function. Definitely do that. And it's a nice place to also keep your things organized. I know how it is. Sometimes you have different things in different places, and LinkedIn allows you to upload it. So let's say you ever need it in the future, you always know where to find it. So adding media, you can add the document or the link and then save. Once you press save, this new certification, oh, something went wrong. Once you add it, it will spin around. No, it's not. It doesn't want to work for me today, but let's see. What's the issue? Might just be a bug for today. But that should work, and that usually does work once you add that information there. You would see it then pop up in your licenses and certifications section. You can see on people's profile the examples. And yeah, that's the basics of that. Now, one thing that is really handy to display, including, of course, any topical certificates, things that are related to your industry or your field, is also the English exam that you were required to take through our onboarding process. So let me show you what that will look like. So if you're in the English version of our program, most likely you did the EF Standard English test, and oops, and it will look something like this. Oh, that's not the actual credential, but you should have in your email, right? You should have received from EF a number that basically shows your level, your English level of language. And I would recommend displaying it like that. And that's very easy too, right? You're just going to follow that process that I just showed you. The provider is EF Standard English. It was issued, it will have the date when it was issued in the email. And then you can show the credential, which is basically that certificate that you were emailed with your score. Now, if your score was lower than you wanted, maybe don't show it. But I think it is a good proof of the fact that you do have a certain level of English. Or if you took any other English exams, there are many different ones that you may have also taken, either back in Ukraine or in Poland. There's also a way to add certificates directly from LinkedIn Learning if you do have LinkedIn Premium. These are the instructions of how to do that, and I'm going to go and show you in a moment. But there's a section called Learning on the top right hand side. And once you click on that Learning, you can, oh, I guess it ends there. Basically, from that learning section, you can automatically share your certifications that you have recently done. So let's see if I can show you that. And I'm not sure, we'll see if it works, because I don't think I actually have any recent ones myself. Does anyone want to volunteer who has recently done a certificate? I can also just show you where it is, and then you can follow along. So it is right here. On the top, you're going to hit Learning. Once you're in that Learning section, right, you're going to go to My Learning. And you have My Library. And you have Saved. I think those are just, yeah, ones that you have saved to do, but the ones that you have basically completed, you can share. Oh, that's just to share the actual certificate. Let's see. You're going to have to go to Learning History, sorry, and then those are the ones that you have completed. And once you share, it will go to your profile, and you can decide if you want it to be public, connections, or individuals. And I'm just going to test out what that does on my profile. So I've hit share. Now if I go to my profile, and I have to go from there just back to LinkedIn. I think it was just in my feed. Okay, but it didn't pop up in my certification. So there, you're still going to go the other way in order to add it as a permanent certification. But if you just wanted to share the good news that you finished a course, then that would be the way to go. Oops, how did I get there? So like I said, learning, My Library, Learning History, and then you can see the courses you've completed and you can share. And that's going to tie into another topic, and I'll get to in a moment, which is basically just engaging with the platform. The more that you engage and share, the more people are going to see you on there, including, that is also including recruiters. So that's a nice thing to do when you do complete your course. Let's talk about our next topic, and I'm going to give you a moment before that to think about what were some of the actual certifications that you have done.
Lorena, can I ask about these licenses?
Sure, please.
How relevant these certificates should be? 5 last years, 10 last years?
How recent in just the
Yes.
timeline? I would say it's not necessarily important how recent, as long as it's aligned with your professional and career goals. So even if it was a certification that happened, let's say 5 to 7 years ago, if it's still relevant and it's not in a field that's like super, let's say, progressed over time. If you did a course in AI 5 years ago, we know that the technology has changed so much over time. But for most, I would say most fields, it's still relevant, even if it was, let's say, in the 10-year time frame.
And second, if the organization is unknown, we can find it in a list. Can we write it ourselves? For example, Belarusian, Ukrainian organizations. You can find them in the list.
I think you do have the option to add your own. Correct me if I'm wrong. Has anyone had any issues adding your own names? As far as I know, you can. Yeah. Great questions. Thanks, Volha. Anyone else want to ask any questions about the certifications or any issues that you have come across yourself when you have tried to add?
No, thank you very much, Lauren. It's all clear.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to, because we're already at halftime, I'm going to skip over our workshop time for today. Maybe if at the end we might have time to do it, but basically this worksheet links to a few questions that will help you start to think about collecting the information of your certificates. So please do work on that if you don't already have it on your profile after our call. Let's talk about now languages. So why are languages important, and how can we correctly or adequately display languages on our profile? So you want to stand out to recruiters, of course, always. This is always my answer for everything, who may be searching for candidates on LinkedIn who have certain language skills for a certain position. Maybe they really do value a certain level, let's say C2 English, or they really value bilingual Ukrainian Russian, Ukrainian Polish. Then it's super important for you to have it there, and it can never hurt. Let's say even you're applying to a position where it is not really a requirement, but it still gives a full picture of your overall abilities. So it's pretty self-explanatory how to add it. I think most of you already have your languages on there. Just make sure, and we talked about this before, that your listing of your language is in the language of your profile. So the word English should be English, etc., etc. And you will also be asked to add the level, and it will come from a drop-down menu that includes these 5 proficiency levels. And it's always good to be honest about it, because they might decide to interview you in that language. You never know. And not to say that you're not doing that, but definitely put the accurate one. And if you are, for whatever reason, not sure, right? Am I elementary or am I limited working proficiency? These terms can be confusing at times. You can also reference, and I would actually advise this, especially for the CV, to reference the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. This is the gold standard. Everyone understands what you mean by A2 or A1 or B2, C1. So, of course, you can put fluent, always your native language you're fluent in. Maybe, or probably a lot of you are fluent in another language as well. This is unfortunately not common for most Americans, but you can reference, as I said, this scale for your CV. On LinkedIn, it's not using that scale because it's not a European company, but I would recommend, if you don't already, definitely indicate your ABC level on your CV. Any questions about language?
No, everything looks clear.
Okay. So next off,
I'm sorry, Lorraine. Can
yes.
I ask you also about this EF certificate? Because I haven't done it. I registered, I did CV, I sent it, and I really would like to have this proof on my LinkedIn profile. But I haven't done it, and I can't find it on the Worldly Global website. Maybe you can attach a link where we can do this test.
Yes. So that's strange because one of our requirements to enter the program is to complete it. So you're saying, Boha, that you never received the link to complete it?
Well, for example, I searched on my email and I haven't found any EF certificates or proofs of a test. So no.
Okay. Let me try to find out where you could get access to it, because unfortunately we don't have access to the platform. Only when you click on a certain link, a certain link will you yourself receive it, and then we ask you to share it with us in order for us to confirm the exam level. Do you remember sharing it with any of our staff, like Alina or
Bajena.
Bojana? Okay, so if you shared it with Bojana, maybe she has it somewhere in her email.
So the result of this test is possible to attach. It's not. It doesn't look like certificate.
You should have received the result once you finish the exam, but we don't receive the result.
Lorraine, I have the same issue because we can see only our results, like online results in the web page, but we haven't any certificate generated. And I wrote a message for Alina, but maybe if you also ask about it, it will be helpful for us.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I will double check that for both you and Boha. Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you. I'm sorry for price.
No worries. It's nice to have kids join us. Okay. And yeah, in general, I would say it's even better if you or not better, but if you don't have the actual certificate of something, still add it and then consider adding it back later because it's better than nothing. All right. If there are no other questions about adding language, let's continue. And as promised, I did want to talk to you about the social networking aspect. It is a social networking site, of course, specifically for the job search. But what that means, I think, for all of you, especially, is that we need to expand the network as quickly as possible in order to gain the true benefit of the platform. So I understand it might feel, a bit awkward and strange to write messages to people you do not know, people you have never met in your life. But that's exactly what you have to do to grow the network. And thinking, I like to use the image of the spider web because you can think of your network as any of those little links is a potential to finding a position. Even the random person that you meet at a job fair who is not even the person who's hiring. Maybe it's another person looking for a job, and you explain to them what kind of position you're looking for, which kind of field you're working in, and they come across something. And because you connected on LinkedIn, they share it with you and you apply and you get the job. I had something like this happen to me, not through LinkedIn, but just through meeting someone who we talked and I shared and got a position that was really a great fit for me through her telling me about it. So you really never know what those connections can do for you. And like I said, having the goal, the number goal, which I didn't include here, but the number that you should be reaching for is a minimum. I know it might sound like a lot, but the minimum of 500 connections in order for the way that this works to benefit you. Because it increases your reach, your visibility. You have the first level connections, those are the direct connections, but then you have all the people who are connected to that person are potential connections for you as well. So, like I said, it's a social networking tool, and it only really works for you if you're able to grow and cultivate your network. How do we do that? That is the million-dollar question. If you don't have a lot of connections, it might feel overwhelming. How do I get to 500? Here are six steps that you can really focus on in order to get those numbers up and in order to really try to make additional connections that you don't already have. And it's a slow process, and that's okay. But number one, you want to send a connection request to anyone that you would like to connect to. We can talk more about who specifically that is. But the reason I say customized is because when you, and probably you know this feeling, if you get a message from someone and it's very generic, then you might not want to respond because it feels robotic. It doesn't feel personal. So I would also recommend to customize as much as you can in order to be more successful in people accepting the connection. Using the alumni tool, I can show you that in a moment, that shows you people who are in your network because you went to the same school as them. You can definitely connect with Upwardly Global participants and staff. If you're in our closed group, our employer group, don't feel shy to connect with other people in the program. Fourth, engaging with the platform. So like I said, if you get a certificate, share with your network. If you have come across an interesting article that was helpful for you, share it and react to content as well, because as I said, because it's a social networking site, that's simply how it works and how you can increase your connections by engaging. And then fifth, joining any LinkedIn groups that are related to your field and interests. Could be a field that is a hobby, but since all of you are on the job search, I would focus on the professional groups related to your industry or field. And then last but not least, adding people that you have met while networking in person. So if you went to a job fair, for example, or you went to an event, I would always recommend having the goal of connecting with one person after on LinkedIn. If you introduced yourself to someone, if you got their business card, it never hurts to connect. Let's say even the same day, you can write a really simple message of, it was nice to meet you. Thank you for sharing XYZ information. And then you're able to that way also grow your network and access other relevant information that they may share. And some people are honestly not going to be active on LinkedIn. So maybe you add them and they never respond. They never accept your request. Don't take it personally. There's people who, if they're not job searching, they have probably no strong motivation to regularly check their LinkedIn. But keep going and just keep adding those numbers to your network, and maybe you have the goal of adding one new connection every day, right? It just takes 5 minutes to send that message. And one thing that we tell even our participants in the US, that Upwardly Global, the staff there, we all have the same mission, is to help you find a job. And with that in mind, right, if we can accept your request and it will increase your connections just a little bit, we would like to do that. So honestly, anyone in the company is used to getting connection requests, and they also share interesting and relevant information about the job search. I will say that for the US program, maybe it's more related to the US job market, but a lot of the things we share, I think, are universal and related also to multinational companies. So definitely don't be afraid to go to Upwardly Global's LinkedIn site. You can go to the staff page and really randomly send a message to people, and I will give you a template for what that would look like. Maybe more relevant though, and you're welcome to do both, is also connecting with the coaches from our Poland project. I have added their names and their LinkedIn links here. Everyone, I'm sure, if they see your connection, will accept it. It is important though to say a really brief thing in your request. So this would be a template for Upwardly Global staff, either in the US or in Poland, right? You can say, hi, my name is, and I recently joined Upwardly Global. I am working on expanding my professional network, and I would love to connect. Short and sweet. The person knows what is the affiliation. I think that's the most important thing. When you send a connection request, how are you connected with this person? And if they are connected in some way, then most people will accept. What if you are sending it to someone, this is just an example, someone that gave a presentation at an event that you went to, or maybe they're a hiring manager that you spoke to at a job fair. So you can say, hi, my name is, I've been following your posts on LinkedIn for the past few weeks. I appreciate the knowledge and information you share, and I'd like to connect with you so I can continue learning from you. Now, the request for connecting with a hiring manager might look different, right? It might be, I met you last week at the job fair in Warsaw. I appreciate the time you took to talk to me. I look forward to connecting with you so I can stay up to date with open positions in different companies. And ChatGPT is a really great way to get ideas. I wouldn't say, as always, like you definitely don't want to copy paste, but you can use it as a way to generate ideas. If you just ask, I would like a connection request template for a hiring manager, right? Then it's going to produce certain language for you that you can kind of use as inspiration. So I did speed through that really quickly. Sorry, I just wasn't sure if we were going to have enough time or not. But we do have sufficient time for questions. And if we would like to do a little bit of workshopping, we can also do that. But first off, do I have any questions? Yes, Volha.
Yes, I wrote a lot of questions as this topic about networking is very important for me. I have 10 people from my old friends. Sorry. First, how the LinkedIn group, sorry, how the
No.
LinkedIn group can help us, because it's just groups. They are posting something. For example, United Nations groups. I added it to my profile, but how can it help me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a good question. It's more indirect than directly. I would say that if you are part of a group that is sharing specific information that's useful knowledge for your job search, that's one way that it can help. Secondly, if you post, oftentimes these groups, you have the ability to post a question. Like you can say, for example, I'm in some photography groups, and if I have a photography question, I can post it and people can answer. And then through that, you can establish new connections because people might say, oh, Volha is an expert in this, or Volha knows something about this. Let me connect with her directly. So through a group, you might actually get to know or connect with the members of that group. But it is much less direct than connecting with a recruiter at a company because we actually don't know to what extent it can help us. Like I said, though, a lot of the things that you do on LinkedIn are I can't pronounce this word today, cumulative, which means that it's not just the one thing you do, but all the little things you do over time. So it's creating a picture also of your brand. And I sometimes dislike that term because we all are in a sense these days having to turn ourselves into brands, but it's your online portfolio, it's your online resume, and part of that online resume is showing your passions, your interests, and the groups are one way to reflect that.
I see. And another question is how to add alumni. And it was easier for me to find alumni from my university, but it was harder to find. I was a participant of Exchange International program where I traveled to US, and I know that alumni of the program are really, they are the leaders, the future leaders of their country, but I couldn't find it in the LinkedIn. Maybe people don't write it in their profile that they've been to UGRAT, Global UGRAT alumni exchange program for post-Soviet countries. But it would be very good source of connections if I could find alumni of this program.
Yeah, that does sound like a really good opportunity to connect with people. I I would say at times with those kinds of groups, you have to do a couple different searches, either on LinkedIn or even on Facebook sometimes,
Mhm.
with the keywords like the name of the program plus alumni, or the name of the program and the year that you did it.
Mhm.
Because there are groups that were formed. If anything, I would think that the program still, no, the program is not still running. It's not an active program, right?
I've seen that it's running right now for Middle East. So it's running, but not for post-Soviet countries.
Mm,
But it was running for a long period of time. So
right.
before me going there and after me, maybe 10 more years. So it's
Mhm.
running.
Yeah. One thing you could consider doing, if there is a LinkedIn page for the current program, even if they're not active in that region anymore, you could write into the group and explain your
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. It would be really great to connect with other people who were part of the program at my time. Does anyone
Mhm.
know how to get in touch?
Yeah, probably. Thank you.
Sure.
Next question. What are the names of those who help finding the job? One is recruiter, right? But I know there are other names of these professions that help on LinkedIn to find job. And how can we search for them and connect them?
Yes. And I think I even want to do like a whole just session on that because it's such an exciting topic. But I would say in general, the most common name of that person's job linked to their LinkedIn profile would be recruiter.
Okay.
Hiring manager, of course, is another term. Headhunter is not common anymore. I feel like that's a more outdated term, but you might hear people refer to headhunter. But depending also on the industry, sometimes like in LA, we have a lot of talent agents. Talent agents looking for usually in the entertainment industry. But I would say go with recruiter primarily, but just know that depending on the field or industry, you could have a sales recruiter, you could have a talent. Another term, I can write it in the group here, is talent acquisition specialist. It's a really fancy long word for recruiter. Talent acquisition. I'm having pronunciation issues today. Recruiting team lead is also something that you might come across. But it will be often nowadays some version of recruiter. You might also see recruitment specialist.
Suppose I like some organization and I would like to be part of it. Who should I look for in this organization and what kind of message should I write to this person? Maybe, yes, you gave us an advice about ChatGPT, how to ask this chat about this message to such person, not to look annoying or disturb this person, how to do it.
Yes. It's a great question. And I think probably the answer, different people will give you different answers. We had a really good webinar where a recruiter came and basically said that, they're of course very busy. So it could be that they do not see your connection request and they also do not see your message to them. But I would say in general, it's never a bad idea to locate. There's always a section on every company's LinkedIn page that says staff. And when you scroll through the staff section, you will see people with a title recruiter. You can also simply search in the search tab bar on LinkedIn. Let's say you're in IT and you can search IT recruiter and see what pops up. But I would say it's always better to be really focused and specific. So if you do know a company that you're interested in, I would just say go to their page, look at the employees, and directly write to any HR or recruiting staff that you can find there. And in terms of the type of message that you would send, it really depends. And maybe what I'll do is I'll send a template for that in the follow-up email to this webinar.
Mhm.
I would say it's always important, though, to, of course, introduce yourself briefly, because you're writing to a recruiter. You want to be really clear on, this is the position that I'm looking for or open to, and these are my top experience and qualifications, so that they know right in the beginning. They don't have to scroll through your profile or read a long message. Make it short and sweet with your, it's like your marketing pitch to them.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, those are really good questions. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Any other questions about any of these topics that we've covered? I think the connecting one is maybe the most, not intimidating, but the most gray area of how do we do it and how do we go about doing it.
There are no questions. Thank you very much indeed, Lorena, for really interesting session. I can add a small tip about searching people. When I started my LinkedIn profile, sometimes I try to search people, my acquaintances. And I think that searching algorithms in LinkedIn are not so sophisticated as Google has. So some people I cannot find. But after that, I used Google search just to type in LinkedIn, for example, John Johnson. And Google found these people, are LinkedIn not. So if you can't find people, just LinkedIn, just use Google search and you small tip.
That's a really good tip. Thank you, Maxim, for sharing that. I didn't realize myself. Google now is really sophisticated in collecting all the different data online. So yeah, that's a good thing to do for sure.
Yes, I've been using computers about 30 years, last 30 years, and I'm all this time and observe that Google algorithms are the best in the world.
Yes, Google knows everything. Anyone else have any burning questions or even tips? I mean, for example, what Maxim just shared, that's great. I'm sure all of you have experienced certain things that worked better than other things. If you have anything interesting or useful to share with the group, it's always
I
nice.
really would like to say thank you so much for your help and for this session, yes, and for clear explanation. And it looks very small tips every time, yes, but it helped us to optimize and upgrade our LinkedIn profile, yes. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Yulia.
And
For
I
joining.
have a small tips too. I try to connect with people who is active on LinkedIn, because sometimes when I find some people, I saw that they didn't have any post, any comments, any reactions, and I tried to connect with these people, but didn't have answer from there. And then I tried to connect with people who leaves some comments and some reactions for some interesting posts, for some interesting events, and so it's more useful than find like from search. Because I don't have account in Recruiter.
Mhm.
And when I started to add only IT Recruiter, my LinkedIn has only IT sphere, and it's not useful for me.
Yes, those are good tips, Tatiana. Thanks for sharing that. Especially, right, we follow people and we connect to people in order to gain additional information and knowledge. So if someone's not active, it won't help you. So that is a really good thing to do, is when you click on their profile, or have they recently been reacting or posting? It's a good indicator of their activity level. And the same thing goes for you. So that's another good reason why staying active and not obsessively active, of course, everything can be addicting these days, but just, going onto your profile regularly, checking what's going on, posting something here and there, shows other people who may want to also connect to you that you are also active. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for the excellent questions. And as I said, you do have access, and I will share again the worksheet that may help you to complete these steps, and hope to see you next week for our next session. And have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
you.
Bye bye. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.